Alright, so surface area of a triangular prism, and then we'll do the volume of a triangular prism all in this video. Alright, here's our example. Here's my triangular prism. Surface area. It's the first thing I'm talking about. Surface area, again, find the area of all the surfaces. First question I would ask myself is, how many surfaces does this triangular prism have?
5.
So there's 5 surfaces. So let's identify these 5 surfaces. If I look at the front, what's the surface? So I have a triangle. And if I look at the front and I also look at the back, I have another triangle. And what's unique about these is they're both the same or congruent, right? They're both equal triangles. Okay, perfect. So we got the front and the back. That's two of my surfaces. Now I'm going to look at the right side. This right side has a, what shape is this right side here? Rectangle, okay. And the left side is also rectangle, and it happens to be the same exact rectangle. So that's not a coincidence. That's times 2 as well. And then finally I have that bottom there in blue. And what shape is that?
Rectangle.
Another rectangle. So I got my 5 shapes. 2 triangles, 2 rectangles, 2 unique rectangles, and one rectangle by itself. Alright, so now I want to find the area of all these. Well, let's jog my memory. How do you find the area of a triangle? How do you find the area of a triangle? Divided by 2 or 1/2 base times height. Either answer would be great. So 1/2, I'm just going to write 1/2 base times height. The area of a rectangle is length times width. And again, the area of a length, so this is going to be times 1. And the area of another rectangle is length times width. Alright, so now let's pick these apart. I'm going to drag these down. And let's get the dimensions for all these. So for my triangle, what is my base? What is my height? So let's get all those dimensions down, and then I'll plug into my formula, and we'll get those in there. So for my triangle, what is my base? What's the base? Yep. 16. And what is the height? What's the height?
6.
6. All right. So just keep in mind I'm going to erase this here for a second. So for the height of the triangle, the height always has to come down and make that right angle of a triangle, right? So the height always comes down from one vertex, comes straight down, and makes a right angle. That's how you know that's the height. All right, so perfect. So I have this piece here is 1/2 base times height, and I have 2 of these, so I'm going to multiply all these by 2. And we'll get to that one in a second. Plus, what is the length and width of the rectangles on the right and left side? What is the length and width of that rectangle on the left, right, and left side? Length is,
8.
you have one length of 8 and one width of, and this one. So we have 8 and 10. Let me just erase this a little bit so we can see it a little better. All right, so here's the one dimension, and here's the other dimension. So 8 and 10. So we have length times width, so 8 times 10. And since we have 2 of them, times 2. Lastly, we have my last rectangle here, and what are the length and width of that bottom rectangle there? Yep.
8 and 16.
Yeah, we got 16, which is this here in the front, and then all the way to the back here, which is 8. So we have here 16 times 8. All right, so now I got the area of all the surfaces. So the total surface area is going to equal 2 times 1/2 times 16 times 6. Does anybody have that one? So it is 2 times 1/2. Well, 2 times 1/2 is just 1. So what's 16 times 6? The answer should be there. 96. Plus, then I have 2 times 8 times 10. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 times 10 is 160. And lastly, I have 16 times 8. And that gives me 128. And then, one last piece. What is 96 plus 160 plus 128? And this will give me my final surface area, or total surface area. 384. My units are in inches, so inches squared because it is surface area. This video with the volume of a triangular prism again. So we have this case, we want the volume, and again, when we think about volume, what are we thinking about? The amount that
All the inside.
inside, right? How much of this can fit inside? All right, so back to our generic formula of volume. Volume equals base times height. And I think this is a problem like this is one of the trickier problems as far as what is the base? Now you almost are inclined to say that the base is what it sits on. But that's not actually the base here. This is called a triangular prism for a reason. Right? So because it's triangular, it's the triangle that's actually the base. So if you turn this picture around somehow and picture that it sits on the triangle instead of the rectangle, that's really what the base is. And if you think about this as well, if you were to stack up a bunch of triangles, would this keep its shape? Would it keep the shape of a triangle? Yeah, and if I just kept doing that over and over again, I kept stacking these triangles up, it always keeps that shape of a triangle. So that's, when you think about what the base is what shape can I stack up on top of one another to keep the overall shape of this prism here. So that is the shape for the base. So now we have the base times the height. Again, the base is the area of the base. And what shape is our base? What shape is the base? The shape is a triangle. And what is the area of a triangle? Okay. 1/2 base times height. Okay, so be careful here too, because now I'm using the word height twice. The triangle has a height of its own, and the prism has a height. So be careful that this height is the height of the prism. Alright, so let's find these areas. So I have 1/2 base times height, that's the area of the triangle, and then times the height of the overall prism. What is the base and the height of the triangle? What's the base and the height of the triangle? Yep.
16 and 7.
Yeah, the base is 16, the height is 6. And what's the height of the prism? What's the height of the prism?
10. 8.
That's what gives it its length. So the prism height is actually 8. Plug in, volume equals 1/2 times base times height of the triangle times height of the prism. So this here in yellow represents the height of the area of the base, and then this here highlighted in blue is the height of the prism. All right, and then after we do this multiplication here, what is 1/2 times 16 times 6 times 8? Yep. 1/2 times 16, 8 times is 8, 8 times 6 is 48, and 48 times 8 is going to give me, yep, 384. We're talking about volume, so what is my units?
Inches cubed.
Inches cubed. So that means I can stack up, if this was a 1-inch cube, 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch, that means 384 of these would actually fit inside that rectangular prism.